It's like it's cool, but it's finicky sometimes. So
Yeah, yeah.
you have no idea if you haven't been watching closely, you have no idea how many new platforms, stream platforms, are going live. You know, so there you go. I'm already live on YouTube. It's not made for kids. I mean, um, there it is. So it's streaming on YouTube. Where do I get the link? I think it's just my YouTube profile, isn't it? Have you ever streamed on
Mhm.
YouTube?
I can, if you give me, let me check the links and see if they're live on my end.
Oh, there you go. I got it. I got it. That should be this one. Let me just try and open it from incognito. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Cool.
Sweet.
It's this one here, by the way. I'm throwing it in private chat. Cool. All right.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm going to copy this link. So I don't hear myself.
Actually, make a good post on Forecaster as well. I like to have like an intern that does all this shit. Like, oh, we're live, and then
Hey, let's go. Okay, yeah, I just subscribed to you on my
nice.
YouTube. So yeah, nice.
Live from YouTube. All right. Yeah. Post it and pin it, and then I because most people, I didn't on the Luma event. People were supposed to go to. By the way, people, if somebody's actually live right now, we we're supposed to go live on retake, but had some tech issues, so we're just live on YouTube. But I'm just gonna go and chat the chat on my channel, and maybe I can post a link to this. Yo, here
Got it.
on YouTube. Nice. um, cool. That's it. Anyway, like I was telling you a few minutes ago, I think I think it's either right now or like in the next half an hour or so that pre-sale, Clanker pre-sale is gonna go live. So I'm sorry to say, not a lot of people are gonna be watching this stream.
Hey, no, it's all good, man. I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah, I was looking forward actually to catch up because it's been like over a year for sure, probably even
Mhm.
more. We did that ornamental thing, remember, with the tarot card?
Yeah, I do, man. I do. I ended
That
up
was
like
cool.
building out like the full tarot deck from that, and then like I
I
have
did,
this like
yeah.
side game now. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'll definitely show some shit once when we get a chance.
Nice, nice. And did you stay in touch with Jacob?
Yeah, so like basically, um, so we worked on that stuff for a minute, and then um that ended up like he ended up doing what he was doing with it, and then I ended up meeting with some other folks that did like the astrology council.
Right.
And as I started like vibe coding, I ended up like making like this astrology app called Solara. And that's been pretty fun. The process of like making a mini app for that and then realizing that this actually just needs to be a mobile native app. And so I kind of just scrapped everything I did and have been building it from scratch, designing it from scratch from the ground up, and like not necessarily using the mini app context anymore. I
Mm,
mean, it still is pretty much relevant. It's not like the design language isn't too far away from it, but
mhm.
I've realized to deliver a core experience that's super unique, it needed to have its own use of native interactions. I didn't wanna, like, try to figure out how to bypass it and, like, use native touch and stuff with an app within an app because, like, I feel like those things kind of, like, break, uh, depending on how well it's supported on in the Farcaster thing proper. So I
Mm,
was like, I feel like I'm gonna be spending too much time trying to, like, reinvent the wheel here and make something massively robust." So I kinda, like, had a rule where it's like, if I'm building a mini app, it needs to be dumb simple. It has to have 1 or 2, 3 at most, like, major things of interaction.
mm,
But the best mini apps are ones where you're really only just doing one thing and one thing really well.
mm,
Um, and if you feel like you need to add complexity, then it no longer is a mini app. It doesn't serve that purpose. You have to build it as its own, I guess, like encapsulated app experience.
interesting.
And that can't rely on you can't piggyback off of an existing sort of like space in order for that to happen. Now you can leverage Farcaster because it's a protocol. You can embed it in your app experience, but it would have to be sort of like the inverse. Instead of you being the mini app in Farcaster, Farcaster has to be sort of like this protocol layered thing that helps power or engineer or are part of your core app experience. So they kind of like are one in one or like hand in hand rather than one trumps the other in that sense. Uh,
Right.
and that's helped me in many ways sort of like mentally plan and sort of build what I'm doing, but at the same time, it also has created extra work now, obviously, just because it's just like, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so ended up kind of building that out and then kind of getting my feet wet in just vibe coding a bunch of different app experiences. I just wanted to really see the upper limits of sort of like my knowledge
Mhm.
and I already knew I wasn't a production level code guy, but I knew that I was very good at design, so I wanted to see if I could max out the competency from a front end perspective, which I think I have. But then it was all the other stuff that was just as important, like the back end processing, the stuff that allows you to run an app smoothly, being able to minify your code. Um, so that it's not bloated. I think one of the biggest things I encountered, or like the one thing that I noticed with people who are building mini apps, is that they're really slow to load.
Really?
Um, yeah, so like for example, I think a lot of folks who are vibe coding stuff, unless you're probably using like uh, vibes engineering, for example, from
Right.
Helmo, or I think one or two other sort of like I think like very specific because they built the sort of framework or related to it. If you're kind of
Right.
just like doing it cold, let's say you're doing it from ChatGPT, or if you're doing it from Claude Code, for example, um, if you're not careful and depending on how you ask it to build a thing for you, depending on how you prompt it, sometimes it's bloated, and so the time it takes for your mini app to sort of like load sometimes is long, or if you're in the middle of doing an interaction or like a process within the application, it kind of hangs up. I've often had to like refresh mini apps so that I could get them to work. And I think that's just because like it takes a while for all the stuff to load, and then you've got the cookies, and then once the cookies are in there, then you're good. Um, but
Yeah.
I think that's the other limitation of like having mini apps within apps because they're not necessarily really like app builds. They still follow more web related rules than they follow native app related rules.
Mhm.
So you're still sort of like at the mercy on like how you would resolve things in a browser because essentially that's kind of like what the mini app framework is. It's like their own version of Chromium or something like or like a
Really,
browser within it. So
it isn't bad, isn't it? So
yeah, yeah, no, 100%. I think it's like it's sick because it allows for like scale. I mean, I think I I had the same realization when I found out like Figma was built the same way. And then it was like, "Oh, okay, well, if I approach it as
Well,
like a browser then like I could build really sick ass plugins on Figma without me thinking so much about the complexity of like
yeah.
I don't know Java that much." Um, but yeah, like Figma is basically a Chromium app, all web based. And so when you build plugins, you're essentially just building a web app in Figma, which is already a large web app in and of itself.
So you wait, I give me some rope because I'm 20% familiar with what you're saying, but I need to catch up a bit. I know what Chromium is, right?
Yeah,
But are you saying that Figma is like a Chromium instance within the website?
that's basically what it is. It's like the Figma native app, yes.
Right, sure.
Um, but because it's like it's essentially like a so Adobe, for example, is its own like let's say like C sharp or C plus plus like app that was built and it was catered and engineered specifically for it to operate the way that it does and all that stuff.
Right,
And then Figma was like, what if we built Adobe, but it was from a browser? Like instead of it being encapsulated in its own ecosystem, the ecosystem is the web itself.
right,
And so Figma essentially in that context is a creative browser. That's the reason why like multiplayer is so seamless because it's just like, you know, two accounts joining the same website. That's why version control is a lot easier and simpler to do as well because it's all you have to always be on. That's the reason why too like for Adobe, at least the old version, you didn't have to be online to use it. Figma, you don't have to be online to use it per se. It's a
mm,
localized instance.
mm,
It's like the difference between when you're building locally, like using localhost versus having a live domain.
right,
Um, but when you're online, it's like Figma is like the live domain, and then it now becomes like this shared thing that anybody can sort of tap into.
right.
But that's also like the approach and how people can build on top of it. It makes sense because if you were to build it as it's, um, if you built it like the old Adobe days, you would have to also have like this very strict and also stupid list of like your docs on how you would people would like play into it and getting
Sure.
API keys, all this other bullshit. And like for Figma, it's like you don't have to. It's like, okay, you could just use the inspect tool and you could see how Figma works.
Yeah,
And then you could just like play around with it and inspect, and then now all of a sudden you've got your own thing.
I see.
Um, yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Once I figured that out, I was like, okay, that's pretty much kind of like I use that. I liken the Farcaster mini app thing as sort of like a similar type of feel.
I see what you're saying.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
which
like
is great
comparison.
because it allows you to like build things very fast, but you do run into a wall when complexity exceeds sort of like the upper limit of what the mini apps are sort of designed to do. They're not meant to be like fully fleshed out like super experiences, but they are meant to be very like fun ways to generate retention, perhaps for a much larger thing that you've built already.
That's it. That's what I was trying to get back to because that was interesting to me. So I don't know if I agree 100% or not, but just to repeat your point. Your point of view is that mini apps should be like the way that you think that you would use mini apps is as not necessarily an MVP at most, but like a limited experience. And if it is part, like if it grows in complexity, then like if you have, let's say that you in your mind you have an upper limit, whatever that is, of complexity, and if you have a product that exceeds the limit, then a mini app would not be a good idea.
Yeah, because I think like the question then becomes of time. Like the time it takes for you to put something up on a mini app could be a
Mm,
matter of hours
mm,
if you know what you're doing, and if you have a simple enough thing that has a repeatable sort of like feedback loop that's fun, you have something that you can build upon and you can refine and you can leverage, and maybe you can add certain smaller but additional layers of complexity over it, and then know that that's sort of like where you're at. So think about it like almost like let's say a Pokemon game, for example. You could theoretically build a fully fledged Pokemon game, for example, as a mini app, right? But what would probably be more
that'd be
interesting, not more interesting, but what would make more sense, especially if we're thinking about the culture related to like Farcaster mini apps
right.
now, and it's about the movement of transaction activity and the movement of funds and so on and so forth. A fully fledged game may not hit those requirements than, let's say, having a much more like Tamagotchi related experience where you're checking in on the Pokemon that you found, or that you're managing your 6 starters that you would use in a given match, and that there's some sort of, like, parity between this sort of companion experience and then the main thing that you're already building, where the companion experience has its own very quick and effective feedback loop, and the larger game doesn't necessarily have the same thing because you're really building towards this much larger denouement, this much larger, like, ending and, like, closing of that loop before you decide to play it again. Um, Now, like, for me personally, I think that makes a lot of sense within the Farcaster, like, framework, and I think also selfishly, I will say it too, I'm not necessarily interested in Farcaster, like, being the place where, like, the entire thing that I'm building lives under, for 2 reasons. 1, I think it's good to use Firecaster as like a boost and a boon of discovering if there is PMF or if there is trend like traction with an idea. But what I don't want is that the app is tied so squarely into Firecaster that if there was an opportunity for me to expand outside of it, I would get resistance from it. That people would be like, "Oh no, it's all here. Why would you like put it somewhere else when the convenience you created a very strong level of convenience for me. Now I would have to build or engineer a new form of incentives to get them off the platform."
To that point, of the mini apps that I've seen and got to work on so far, the not necessarily the best ones, but the ones that were more professionally, like more thought out, were the ones that had the same experience if you just went through a website. And one, for example, is QR Coin. Right?
Mhm.
So QR Coin just has a Farcaster login, or if you go to the website, it's just I think you can just connect your wallet, and there's a
Yeah.
Twitter login. Um, that's not limiting. But then also in the same to the same point, if your mini app has a one-to-one feature parity on within the mini app on Farcaster or on Base and on the website, then doesn't that complexity ceiling kind of disappear? Because you have to be mindful of the form factor, of course, but
Mhm.
you can do pretty complex things.
Give me 1 second.
Hmm. Restream is so cool. I just realized I can reply to YouTube comments from the Restream dashboard. It's great.
Oh, you got some?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a few people watching on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I gotta check. Yeah, okay, so yeah, so let's talk about parody stuff.
Right.
So yeah, so I've worked on, I think in my experience, when I did like working on Solara, and then also like working on Stadium now too.
Right.
I like to speak about my personal experience and try not to use a catch-all for everyone.
Hmm.
Because I know like my stuff's very hyper specific. So for example, like Stadium is its own chain ecosystem like related to esports and gaming and creating permissionless tournaments for people and the whole nine, right?
Do
If I
you
were to
wanna
like,
sorry, do you wanna maybe before you go on, do you wanna maybe do a quick we were supposed to do it before, give a quick
oh yeah, 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 do your
intro?
thing. Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
No, if you wanna do a give intro on yourself, like, before we talk about
Oh,
Stadium,
hell yeah, man.
what it
Alright,
is, what
wow,
you've
okay,
been
yeah,
doing, 'cause maybe some
that's
people.
even better.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? My name is Sursu. I've been in crypto space for probably 6 or 7 years now. I'm a designer by trade. Um, and my work, if you saw me, let's say 2019, 2020, I was an artist, or at least I mean, I've always been an artist, but I was pushing work and applied to like Zora Foundation, the whole nine and whatnot. And this was around the time when Zora and Foundation were not what you know them as today. They were selling physical goods and using
Like a
tokens
zine.
as sort of like a bonding pair. So I started off with that. I was very early artist in both of those platforms. Helped bring a lot of artists in. I created a thing called the Mint Fund. We help artists mint NFTs for free when ETH was like $250 in fees to mint shit. Um, we helped build auctions, like permissionless auctions, which led to the co-creation of like nouns and a bunch of other stuff. I just have always been in the throes of things and just wanted to like see how I could contribute. I am not a person that like is about credit, but I am more so a person that wants to like ensure that everyone who does really cool things is gets attributed to the stuff that they're doing. And that was my whole shtick for a long time. Summer of 21, I raised $1 million in a day with some homies. We started Black Hand Esports Organization. We won world tournaments with Pokemon Unite. We placed third Apex Legends Global Championship in 2022. 23 and 24 and 25, we played a variety of games from Counter-Strike, Halo, uh, what else did we also play? PUBG Mobile, bunch of other stuff. We had an all-girls team in Turkey for Valorant. Um, and it was really fun to be able to leverage crypto and give opportunities to people all around the world to compete in a space that I still find very fascinating. Even though esports is like the fastest growing thing between like sports and tech, it's also the least funded from the side of like players and or organizations. And so I built Stadium to sort of like flip that model in a sense. But in any case, yeah, like my whole overall goal as a designer really has just been like I want to facilitate really unique outcomes for people in industries that I care about. Mainly because I as a child I've always wanted to like see gaming go far. I've always wanted to see art go far. And now I'm 31 and being able to kind of like live out a lot of these dreams of mine, especially having a really cool storied career in ad agency and like product design and stuff before I even got into before the pandemic, for example. I think I've lived like 3 or 4 lives now as a designer. So this one is more of like being an actual founder, true and true. Um, and it's been an exciting process so far. So yeah, glad to be here, glad to talk. We kind of just jumped into it early, so my bad. We should have did the intro earlier, but it's all good.
It's
You got
okay.
it now.
Like 5 years ago, because you said you started getting on Zoran Foundations in 2019, 2020, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was, and in general, like I got into crypto from like the first time, I think it was 2023 or 24, so much later. And
Wow.
yeah, so much later.
Honestly, it was a better time to jump in, to be honest. Like the like in the very I mean, 2020 to 21 was like this weird, like, it's almost like an 80s montage year, like of just like bunch of crazy shit was happening. A lot of people were unlocking a lot of interesting money, and so many people were bored because you're coming off of like Clubhouse and stuff, and
Yeah,
everyone's like out of their minds because holy shit, I got a chance to talk to Virgil, or I've talked to like this famous person or that famous person, because you couldn't go anywhere. And it sort of led to like some really unique opportunities, but I also think it was the most dangerous just because of the lack of discernment people had. It was just everything was just super, super, super exciting, and you didn't really have your wits about you, especially people who weren't used to like how everything worked.
yeah.
And then, you know, what is as old as time is, wait, I'm sniffing money. Money's available. Money, I can get money. I can get money. And so that has always clouded the judgment of many people in many cases. And at that time, money was so abundant, it kind of fell in your lap. And then all the airdrops that happened, oh my God, it was just it was insane.
But it's been there's a
2023,
parallel with mini apps.
the tools were better. Like, yeah, it's a better time to get in.
Sorry, I covered you for this, but it was a tiny bit of lag.
Oh no, you're good, man. I was just saying like 23, 24 tools were better, uh much more secure, a lot of opportunities where like you could have fallback accounts and stuff. Account abstraction was available. Um yeah, 2021, 22, trying to build anything in this space was just it was hell, man. It was hell.
Because
And
everybody
then
was just
like
focused on the money. That's your point.
yeah, and then also like every engineer was like 250, $350,000 a year. Then you had to pay
Right.
another half a million in auditing. It was awful. It was awful. Like I was like, if you're a startup in crypto, you're cooked because you don't have any money. Like you have to, and I think this is the reason why like we've seen startups and stuff like raise insane amounts of money because the cost was just so high.
See, I've
I
never
feel like
thought
now
of that.
you can lean it again because of AI and such, but
Mm.
oh my god, night and day, dude, night and day.
So like probably there was something that was playing a part in this was the fact that not everybody, but a few people were up on their wallets, and so they were like, I don't need to work. So if you want me to actually spend time and work on this Solidity thing, you gotta have to pay me a stupid
Yeah,
amount of money because otherwise it's just not worth it.
yep.
Um, yeah, I never really got it. Like I did a trivial amount of trading, and a bad trader as a result, as you can imagine. But I've never like I that equation where you build in the bear, and I don't know whatever you do in the bull. Like I get it rationally, but I don't get it any other way. I don't as a designer because my biggest problem was that I got back into design seriously at exactly the same time as I got into crypto for the first time.
Mm,
And I've actually seen so many people who were actually good designers, but you could just tell, and some actually told me explicitly that dude, it's not worth it trying to grind it as a designer because you can actually make more money just trading meme coins. And I know that is true for a fact, but unfortunately, maybe for me, I wanted to actually build something as a designer, and I think I'm, maybe the trend is positive for the first time in a while, but it's been hard because the when people are trading more and they're making more money, clients disappear.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No, dude, you're first of all, I think it has to be acknowledged that you're a guy who cares, um,
I
because ultimately
do.
this space will be vapid unless we have people like you, for example, that are willing to say things deserve to not only look good but function just as good. Um, and it sucks where, for example, like uh another good friend of mine, John Palmer from Arena Tech and the Party Dow crew and such. Like they make incredibly good work. And I remember they had a proposal for Uniswap and did like the Uniswap's grant brand, but then they did the whole brand for Uniswap in general, and it got rejected. And I was just like, this is peak. We haven't seen like peak design, like I think from like a corporate brand perspective since like fucking what I would say maybe like Pentagram in like 2007 before they like fell off. Um and so, like, I'm reading the comments. But, but, like, it was very funny. It's been interesting to sort of see the sort of, like I think there's this interesting, like, spirit of, "I think I can do the thing myself," which is like, sure, but also at the same time, uh, we need more fidelity here, and it's good that you're doing it, and I think it's starting to pay off bigly because of the reps that you've put in. I mean, and it's not like you needed them. You were already very good before you got in, but
Never good
uh,
enough.
I but I think what happens is that the level of consistency, and this is the other thing too, right? Like for example, a lot of people have seen Zero X Designer, for example, and that's just because the dude is, or I don't know who they are. I haven't heard their voice, but they've consistently like put out stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it's bad, but what it was doing was creating conversation, and that was something that, uh, also created this new wave of palatability of people saying, "Shit, maybe we do need a designer." And, like, I think I've had people who have, like, shit on that person, and I'm like, "Look, I don't
On
really
Zero
care."
X specifically.
I was like, I don't yeah, it's like I had, like, friends who are, like, outside of the space. They're like, "Well, who is this person?" I'm like, "Listen, if you're in the space, whether you like that person or not, their output has created the thought in people's minds that they should hire somebody." So, I do give them kudos in creating opportunity for folks, especially new people who are coming in from a design career. I have so many people who are like, who have reached out to me and say, "Hey, can you do like portfolio review because I want to break into crypto?" And I'm like, honestly, I don't need to review your portfolio. What you need to do is be consistently loud about a thing you obsess about, even if you hate it. You could go like I feel like as an experiment, a designer could go, "I hate all the typography usage in crypto," and do that for like 100 days and just say, "I'm going to make type treatments for all these brands." And somebody is going to pick them up and hire them and pay them like 50 grand to do something like I, I don't see it. I don't see where it's been a net positive, I'd say.
I've never
But
seen
yeah,
it, thought
I
about it
think the
from
work is
that point
doing
of view.
dividends now at this point, at least like as far as people are saying, like, I should get my mini app to look good. I want to have like that thing where people look at it, they go, "Damn," and my app's being used more than just like the day that I made it. Like I can actually get some real usage and retention out of it for a few months. I think that's a really good idea. So yeah, dude, like you're fucking killing it. I've been super happy, like just watching the process,
Thanks, man.
and letting you cook, man. You're holding it down.
And I got ideas. You're gonna see this. Hopefully, if I don't kick it before I get to it. But but like I get it. Like there's a good friend of mine who's a developer because I can't develop for shit, right? Personally.
Mhm.
So we've been like partners for a while, and every once in a while, we have an idea and we build a little MVP. And so far, we built like three or four very different MVPs. And so far, none of those has ever gotten past the first, 5 to 10 users, which is too bad, right? But with this in mind, I get it. Like if suddenly an avenue would appear out of thin air that there was a stupid feature that would bring the product nowhere, but bring in like I don't know, $100, $200 a day or even more, we would consider it at the
Right.
expense of design and maybe. So I get it in that sense, but at the same time, Like, I have a specific question. Do you think that, the very first iPhone apps,
Yep.
which, by the way, those were apps before the iPhone iOS apps. They weren't apps. It was software, wasn't it? Like, that was
Yes.
right, the watershed. Um, do you think there's a parallel between the evolution, or specifically design wise, but in general, so of the app ecosystem within iOS, not later Android, and the mini apps on Farcaster and base? That, like, it's early, and then maybe
I
we're going
can
to get to see good apps
I'm
later on.
picking up what you're putting down. I,
Okay.
I can I can I can say that. I can say I agree with you because of I agree with you because of what Base did and what World has done.
Mm.
So when Base Chain came out, in my opinion, I was like, this is gonna, this is Coinbase's attempt at basically eating everyone's lunch. Like, everyone talks about decentralization, but the overall goal in Coinbase, I always tell people Coinbase is an information company first. They are not a financial, they're a financial company, but they're information first and foremost because Coinbase owns practically everyone's information at this point if you've ever off ramped any funds. And because now they're going to own the decentralized portion of the network too, they will also know how you move in between any type of EVMs related software or application or website. They are information focused and the shit's kind of scary. But in any case, I'm not going to get into that portion of it. But
Right.
what I'm really saying is they saw Farcaster, they said, bet we're going to build a network that's so fast that once we add social to it, it will be almost imperceptible from theirs and ours.
Wait, are you
Now the
talking
base
about
app
base?
Now the base app is out, right?
No,
Base
but
app
like, are you saying that they built the chain after Forecaster was born? Like, who came first?
Base chain came after. Farcaster came out 2022
Right.
and base chain was in development and then released last year. So,
Interesting.
it's not to say that they hadn't tried it like
Sure.
Jesse had been campaigning for this for a while, but
Yeah.
they finally gave him the budget to sort of like build it and do it and see it through. And of
Right.
course, it came after because it's built off of optimism.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, so optimism's kind of like the big daddy of all the uh chains that have come since then.
And
And
the
then everything
Forecaster
else is sort of
protocol
like I
itself is
wouldn't say a
also
derivative, but
right.
like an adjacency. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so Base App comes out. Base App has mini apps. Now, WorldCoin, World, the Orb, and all that shit, they have their own mini app. They have their own app ecosystem, and they have
Yeah.
mini apps within that too. And I wouldn't be surprised because I mean, you look at the Phantom app for Solana, it also has mini apps now. Like everything is moving into every chain, every wallet, every touch point is now creating their own miniature ecosystem universe thing where it's going to have the fee rake and the structures and all that other type of stuff. And it makes sense. And so I think we're hitting that zeitgeist moment where a couple of things can happen. One, the cool thing about mini apps and building for one is that the parity almost automatically translates to the other. You may have to do one or two different things to ensure that you verify it on that particular spot, but you
Right.
no longer in many ways have to code for two separate types of devices.
Right.
Because it's all web-based, you build I don't know, like basically a React Native shell
Yeah.
within you know, package within like a Farcaster or WorldCoin or whatever,
Right.
and then like it's the same app, it's the same app, it's the same app, it's the same app. So there's a really interesting sort of interoperability affordance that you have. Now the question is, are all the customers or all the users of each of these apps the same? or are they different? And so if you're talking about like if you're thinking about in the future what growth looks like or what metrics look like for how you measure success, how do you truly measure that if, for example, all the users are the same across all the platforms? Is there anything unique about that? Or do you sort of group them all into one sort of like decentralized social bucket, for example? If you don't necessarily have KYC, if you don't necessarily have some of these other options, but you have sort of like pseudo anonymity with like the ENS names, for example, how often are you going to see those same people across all the different types of apps? Um, and if so, what does that mean for your product? Like, why would someone use, let's say, like my app Solara on Phantom versus using it on Farcaster? If all the benefits are the same, then theoretically, maybe building the mini app is just reaching as many people as possible because certain people may have access to certain apps because of their region. Um, but if that's the only barrier, then for me as a builder, I'm not worried too much about each of the different platforms. But if I'm a person that's building Farcaster, or if I'm a person that's building the base app, my biggest question is what makes me so different from this other person if they're all building the same thing I built? That gets a little interesting for me as a designer to sort of like think about. But I think if you're a product, if you're building a product, I don't think it matters. I think it's just whatever personal preference shell someone or a particular user cares about, but it may not have any implications on how you grow or the strategies that you employ. But I am wary that like everyone attempts to build these ecosystems, but only a few are going to actually have the capital to sort of sustain it. Um, and that also may mean that like we may see some very over the top incentives to drive users, but it may lead to the same extractive outcomes financially. So that I'm very curious about.
Do you think I've only ever talked to a few people so far that told me they were building something at the same time for World Chain. I've actually never tried it. I don't have a World ID,
Me
so I
neither.
really
I have not given them my eyeballs. I don't think I will. Um, but I mean, what you could do, I'll put you in a group chat with John. Um, because I mean, they built the party crew. They built a whole app, a wallet app type thing
right,
for WorldCoin, and I think it's like the biggest app that's on there. So
really,
they'll have a lot of um I don't even think well, I think they all gave their eyeballs too. But
right,
in any case, I feel like they would have a lot of domain knowledge on
right.
sort of like
Very curious. Yeah,
them. I would say WorldCoin is unique just because of how they use biometrics to verify people. I
sure,
don't particularly think it extends outside of that, but again, like, John would know more because he's intimately built within that ecosystem. It could probably speak to the difference between here and there and Farcaster,
right.
um, but
I,
yeah, I feel like if anything, they might be the 1, 2 it might be 3 or 4 left standing when the rubble ends. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I mean, shit, like MetaMask is gonna probably have mini apps soon. I wouldn't be surprised if Rainbow adds mini apps into their wallet
Come on, no,
experience. They already have a
they gotta do.
browser,
Well,
you
sure,
know?
MetaMask Pay probably is not gonna do Farcast or mini apps, but Rainbow is. I mean, who's they can't all have their own. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, no, no, for sure, man. Like, but again, that's like the thing. It's just like now, what becomes funny is every wallet instead of it used to be uh, it was like exchanges were fighting for your attention.
right.
Use my exchange versus use this exchange. Then
Yeah.
it turned into like use this decentralized exchange,
Yes.
and then everyone sort of settled on Uniswap or like Matcha or whatever. Now it's like every wallet is competing for your attention. Use my wallet instead. My wallet has all the things. And it'll be a race to zero with like fees. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, Varun was already on Farcaster yesterday and wrote like a whole thing about like we're making things easier. We're gonna have like the least amount of fees.
I
I
was
still,
gonna say that. Yeah,
I'm not gonna pay 120. I don't. I feel like it makes sense to pay the $120 a year. I feel like because I haven't paid it,
right.
all of my engagement when I was consistent was still very poor in
Yeah,
comparison to when before they used the pro model.
yeah.
Uh, but I don't really care too much about like that type of interaction, so I'm not gonna pay for it. But at the same time, it's like, um, yeah, it's gonna be interesting now that Farcaster is basically Rainbow didn't have to worry about Farcaster competing with it, but since Farcaster built a wallet,
That's a good
Rainbow and
point.
every other wallet app is now building social tools
That
to
is a good
compete
point.
with Farcaster.
Yeah,
And so, like, everyone it's so weird, dude. It's like everyone's I think
it
at
is
the end of
weird.
the day, everyone's gonna cannibalize each other in some aspect, and there will be some centralized thing because somebody's gonna come on here and be like, "Well, why can't we have one app that does all the shit?" And it's like, you're asking for, like, a virtual iPhone and an iPhone at this point. Like, I mean, you're gonna want it to, like, I don't know, like, read dictate shit to you before you go to sleep at some
That,
point. Like, it's
that's
gonna
why
be so
we have
crazy.
conspiracy theories about simulation. Um, but yeah, I never thought about that. Like the the logical conclusion of that, um, introducing the wallet to forecaster. I never thought about it that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's new
cause like,
competition lines.
I mean, cause this is like, you know what? It's funny. It's like, I mean, the way it may settle the same way. There are multiple different banks that you could go to. Like,
Mhm.
all banks offer the same stuff, but they just have different incentives, and the brand
The brand.
and the association is usually the difference maker between why you might go Bank of America versus Citizens Bank versus, I don't know, whatever other banks that exist, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably gonna be the case for, like, wallets where, like, I don't even think the term wallet will even be in the vocabulary anymore. I think it'll shift into something else. I don't know that name, but Farcaster was a social app, but now it's like a wallet that is social. Like, it's weird how they flipped it themselves because the primary interaction now in Farcaster is not casting. It's more so like loading money in to play money games in the mini apps and chat so that you can gain more money to spend money in the mini apps. So it's like the social portion of it is no longer the important thing anymore. It's only a tool, a narrative device so that you can earn money.
Or lose it.
That's so wild. It's nuts. It's nuts.
I really hope the recording is working well because this whole segment you just started off with Farcaster was a social app.
It was. I mean, yeah, honestly, I might cast it later and like tag fucking DWR and be like, bro, like Farcaster's not social, but it's okay because you needed product market fit, dude. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah, they
know,
did. They talked
they
about this
gave you
extensively.
money and you got to figure out how to make the money back and make your value worth it. So it makes sense. I get it. Make your money, bro. Um, but just know you're not a social app anymore. Like not in the same way. I mean, we've seen the same shift in X. Like, I still call it Twitter, bro. Like, but before Elon Musk bought it, it had its fair share of issues, and like all the things were being depreciated and not really working that well,
Yeah,
regardless. But at least it wasn't heavily financialized in the same context that it is now, where like on X, the incentive is not to actually like tweet things that actually came from your mind or critical thinking or whatever, or responding to people in a really unique, wholesome way. It is now I will tweet reactionary shit even if I don't even believe in it because I know at the end of the day, if I get enough engagement, they will cut me a check of 4 to 5, maybe even 6 figures, and that's my career now. Like, people are making parody not parody, people are making, like, bullshit reactionary accounts just to get rise out of people because it pays them. It's the movie Nightcrawler, that came out, I think, in twenty
Shit, that
fourteen.
was a good one. Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? And all he did was he went from, "I wanna chase the news," to manufacturing news. And
that's.
X was, I was I was chasing news.
Oh, you're
I
good
was
now.
commenting on news. Now I'm making my own news. On Farcaster, it was, I am chatting about cool things. I'm interested in talking to other people about cool things. I'm reporting on cool things. Now I'm just saying shit because I know if I hit the leaderboard, that's $600 in my account.
I was literally gonna bring up the leaderboard. Um, and also actually before the leaderboard, we had Legion, and then we had Moxie.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah. We did. Oh my god, like,
Remember those?
oh, dude, it's no, no, no. It's the, it's like you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, you know? Like, that's we're at that stage, I think in crypto in general, right? Like, I remember when I got into the space, I was very interested in, like, the more radical aspects of it. And it's not that it doesn't exist, but it's so overshadowed by institutionalized, like, ownership of the entire thing that, like, crypto is very much co-opted by new masters. Like, it's no longer this sense of, like, for me, designing in crypto in 2019, 2020, 21 was very punk, and I loved that because it reminded me of the explorations I had when I was in college. Like, university was all about, for me, I never gave a fuck too much about, like, the actual assignments we were given,
Mhm.
but it was more so this opportunity where I could learn so much about all these different types of disciplines and then find a way to make it resonate with, like, my own personal views that I was, like, developing in time. So, I could say no to things because I didn't know what I didn't know. And then as you get older and you get into your career, you fall into patterns, you fall into things that, like, worked for businesses in one context, and then when you move to another business, you have to learn that new context, and so sometimes, like, things don't necessarily work out, so you abandon a lot of that sense of, like, that punk rock that you had, and then crypto sort of brought it back for me. And then now it's like we're settling again into, like, these buckets, these zones where here's where the money is, here's where the attention goes. So we need to design and build things related to that. And I think in many cases, and this is stuff that I've noticed that I haven't seen in your work, that I have seen in other work. Your work, you have built things, you've designed things where it's very clear the intention behind what you want a user to do. What I've noticed in other people's work is that the um the intentionality is obfuscated by generating more of the addictive habit forming related to, like,
Yeah.
do it. And again, I am not shitting on people who just have spin to win shit, but I think at the end of the day it's like, what are we all doing here? If all the patterns that we're building are
They're all the
meant to
same.
create
Yeah.
addiction in a way that is very unhealthy with people who are already, like, drunk off the possibility of getting instantly rich today and losing it all tomorrow. Like, that this form of, like, of pseudo rapid gambling is very dangerous. I think a lot of mini apps are teetering on it so heavily. And I think once people actually really crack down on regulation, especially from like if Apple in and of itself, because Apple is now saying, "Oh, we're changing the way people can monetize. We're still going to take that 30%, but
Yeah,
we're making it more available for you."
yeah,
Once they like dive into that shit, it's going to be like, "Oh no, oh no," like a bunch of violate TOS violations.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I think people got to be more a little bit more careful on what they're building. But yeah, I rambled for a lot. I'm gonna take 2 minutes to shut the fuck up and let you talk. But like
I
this shit actually gets me. I'm mad. I didn't realize how passionate I was speaking about it.
I love
But
it.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's it's there's a I don't remember. So I wanted to make a comparison between the stage of mini apps and the early stage of iOS apps, but I can't really do that because I wasn't really an active member of that thing back when it was, you know. So I actually didn't have an iPhone at all until uh, the three, the four, around that era, right? So, but still, I want to say that it is easier to make a mini app than it was to make an iOS native app back then.
Yep,
You probably
I would
agree,
agree.
right? Okay. Okay. So in that sense, it's good. Whatever gets you going as a mini app developer, whatever gets you some money, even if it's spin to win, it's potentially good, right? But then obviously you don't want to go too far down the hole because then otherwise everything is becomes spin to win. So, um, but that's one of the reasons why I'm still thinking about what I'm about to say, but obviously I can't keep doing the $500 sprint with the same exact way that I've been doing this forever. Um, so I'm either going to scope it down or get some help from somebody else, but I'm always going to keep it. I mean, as far as I can, right? And the reason is that there's always going to, like, there's a bunch of really talented and creative people who want to make new mini apps, and some of these need, deserve and need some design help, and otherwise they wouldn't. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not like they're not going to be able to design anything without me, right? I'm not like irreplaceable or anything, but like it should be not an option, but it should be a part of the conversation, that it's a thing that you can do. uh,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know, especially with vibe coding, where you can just magic up, a style sheet. But I don't want to go on about that too long. Um, I actually forget what I was
No,
talking about.
I'm picking up what you're putting down though. I feel like from a what would be really cool. This is an idea that came to me like the other day when we were chatting again. I was kind of like, okay, you have what you're doing on the sprints, which I think are super awesome. And it's a really good way of like like getting you inundated with different contexts
Yes.
so that you're always sort of like pushing yourself. And I think it also gives teams or solo founders or anybody with an idea kind of like this nice jumpstart into gaining meaningful, actionable data and information on what they've built and their idea itself so that they can actually test against it. Um, what would be really cool though, because I haven't seen this, because for example, if you vibe code anything, it's always using oh my god, what is it called? I can't even think of the UI kit. It starts with a
So
T.
Shatsian.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. And,
Yeah.
like, I would love to actually, like, work on a really cool minified and maybe yeah, like a minified, like, UI kit for mini apps specifically because it has its own particular sizing constraints that are a
Yeah.
little bit different because people when they're designing with, like, the actual iPhone screen, like, if you go on Figma, you use, like, but it actually is deceptively smaller
Yeah.
because it's an embedded app in a frame.
Yeah.
And then it also has like the Farcaster kind of like banner and stuff on top. So you lose so much more real estate in actuality. And it's very difficult for people to sort of like have a fundamental understanding on like what are the best ways of optimizing for that smaller space within a space. Because I've
Hmm.
noticed, for example, like tab targets are way too small for a lot of these apps.
In
Like they
general,
have a
yes.
bottom bar, like it's also
It's too close to
competing
the
with
home
like
bar. Yeah, I
the
know.
actual
Yeah.
bro, it's awful. And
It's
so it's
there.
like I would love to like clean that shit up and be like, dude, style it however you want, but it has to have at least this sort of like core space so that you are building something that is readable, something that is like accessible, and also like you're if you're trying to do too much in one screen, you probably have too much there anyway. Um
Yeah.
so those types of things I feel like building a supplemental like design doc related to the design of mini apps, I think is just as important. And I think it could be built with some programmable things like an actual like UI kit that people can
They-
pull from as in like a GitHub or something. I'd love to like jam on that. I feel like
Man,
we could
I
do a sprint only on that and that'd be fire.
look. I don't know if you're looking at the
I
YouTube.
am. I am. Yeah,
So
Nick, let's do it, bro. Let's all get together on that.
I'm for what it's worth. I'm not gonna. That's something like I thought about it early on. I'm not good at that. Kitting out. I'd like to another life. So you go ahead. Actually, you're free to use my and you access to my Figma if you want to take some of the outputs from the sprints. Go crazy because be cool.
Word, yeah, man. I mean, like literally what I would do, I think this is because Nick has read my response because he was asking a couple weeks ago about like
Yeah,
inspiration and stuff. And like
right.
I my former life as a designer, I did a lot of work building designs. I was a design systems guy.
All right.
Um,
All
so
right.
for like Audible, the audiobook company, I built, I helped co-create like a good amount of those like brand assets, but also like the UX assets for the actual app, for mobile web, for web. Did the same thing for like hospital applications, and then did the same thing for a few of the different pieces for like Nike and shit, like way early on in my career. And so like I've always had like this it's very funny because I don't like doing it per se, but the necessity once something is, like, big, that's when it really starts to make sense. So, like, I always approach systems design as, like, if there's a critical mass of people needing to interface or use a thing, systematizing it makes sense. And because building a mini apps is a very, like, open source and accessible asset I mean, aspect of, like, the new, like, I guess, crypto zeitgeist in a sense, it makes sense to build a framework related to like, here's how you actually within like leverage creativity, but like do it in a way that enhances the potential of your app actually being used rather than you paying a shit ton of money on QR and then like everyone goes to it for 5 seconds, exits, takes the 10K QR, and then says fuck you. Right? Like so
I'm not gonna offer an opinion on that.
yeah, but no, like no, it's definitely boring. It's definitely boring work. But outside of it, when you see people take to it and then build on top of it, that's when it's not boring anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, dude, I know like you said, you're not that's not your thing, but I'd love to like
If you
still
look,
jam on it because what will be cool is
I would use it. So
yeah, exactly.
I can tell you what my ideal scenario, because when I started, first of all, it's crazy. This whole sprint thing started like 4 weeks ago, so it's been like fast forward. But when I really started, like the first week, I considered it for like a split second, and I'm like, I'm either doing the designs or doing the system. So there was an easy choice back then. But now, after 4 weeks, I go back to the library file that I created so many times to just drag a tab bar, a drop down, an icon, whatever it is, just even just the PFP and username group, which is just a recycle every time instead of making it from scratch, obviously. Um, but then if this kit had, just a body caption, micro copy, some basic typographic scale, I would definitely use it. It'd probably be a two-sided street where I give you the new requirements, like, oh, in the past 3 sprints
Yep.
we had a need for these components, and you add them to the kit. It could be two complementary products. Absolutely.
That'd be
uh,
dope. That'd be dope. Yeah, man. No, because I feel like if there is, to your point earlier, talking about like, is this early App Store days when
mhm.
the iPhone first came out with the App Store, and going along with that theme, they realized too at some point the apps that we're gonna get are gonna be so wild and in between that we should have some sort of guidelines to ensure that like we have quality control.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at it the same way where design is still, I wouldn't call it Wild West, but I would say it's an unrefined space
Mhm.
in crypto as a whole. You've got a group of people or groups that are in-house, maybe working for some of like the larger brand names that people know. But outside of that, it's still just like a crazy like hodgepodge of like maybe there's good stuff here, maybe there's bad stuff here. You don't really know. So I
Yeah.
think there's an opportunity where we can build something that actually like has true substance. Um and would invite other designers to then like kind of like build on top of that and then utilize that to then help others put their stuff out. And then for folks who want to do it themselves, they have the ability to do it as well too. So yeah, yeah, 100%.
Nice. Nice. All
I'm
right.
into it.
Okay.
What
But the opportunity is there, though. Like, if you think about how the like today, making a really good native iOS app means that you have a good team. I mean, you can shape a slot product if you want, of course, but the bar has raised so far compared to the early days, right? And I think that because there's so much opportunity in the space, this is the same thing. It's going to happen, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So if you keep at it as a designer or developer in mini apps with intention and direction, you'll be in a much better place in 5 years, at your craft, not necessarily at your at trading. I'm not talking about that.
No, seriously, seriously, like, yeah, because like you, dude, I suck at trading. I'm not good at it. My mom is a better trader than I am, like, and she just dollar cost averages. Like, she'll look at some shit and be like, "Yeah, I think that'll go up." Buys it, goes up. I don't understand. I can't do that shit. So I'm like, yeah, I have to be a practical laborer in a sense and
Yeah,
earn my money the regular way.
me too.
So,
Yeah, I
like
I
let's
I
let's
also
do
like,
that.
this is also like a me problem, but I'm 100% sure it's not just a me problem. But like all most creative people and designers, have a tiny bit of ADHD, and I struggle a little or a lot with this.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
dude, I got that shit in spades for sure,
right.
bro.
So
Like,
for
yeah,
me, as soon as I see the dollar sign of a ticker on the timeline, I'm like, oh fuck. I don't want to see that anymore. I didn't want to see that. I actually muted the whole thing because it distracts me so much.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, that's a fact. Like we said, Farcaster was a social app and no longer is.
I know.
It no longer it is a notification wall of money. It is it's if you put
There's quite a few sound bites out of this.
honestly, you got some really good ones. Yeah, if you do cut out that one, send it to me as
I
well
will.
because I
Yeah.
will. That will be one that I will send to people for sure. They'll be like, "What? Spicy sursu take? It's not really spicy." It's the truth.
It's yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. There's a reason. There's a narrative, but it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's for
uh,
sure. You know what? Okay, so I have a question for you then.
Go on.
Like, considering that is true, how do you think, because maybe it's a two-parter, do you think designers have a capacity through maybe like how we approach building mini apps or just in general? Is there a capacity to sort of like, I won't say fight against it, but redirect, rechannel some of those eyeballs into onto other things? Like, is there a way to make the sort of financialization more palatable? And if so, how do you think we do that? And if not, then how do you see yourself sort of navigating the space as it sort of increasingly grows in that direction?
Um, just to answer, this is a very good question. First of all, straight up, I think the answer is no. There's no way for designers to steer product direction if that was the spirit of your answer. And also, I don't think we should, because, like, as you probably know, design is execution. Sure, you can
Mhm.
talk back, you can discuss the brief, but you got to execute after. Otherwise, you're standing in the way, right? Like, if you're contracted to design a casino, you can't steer it towards something else, right? So
Fair.
that's like, it wouldn't be your job, right? So
Right.
but then again, I happen to be like, there was a period of my life where I was interested in, like, close-up magic and poker and stuff. And so, because I'm also a designer, I was really, when I noticed the first time how cool the art on some playing card brands are. I was like, oh, this is really cool, making the designs and the drawings. And so the way I think about it is that even though you can't steer it, you can make something that's made well enough and artistically enough, even though, there's the whole design versus art thing. But it's something, it's a product that in and of itself you can look back when the hype has passed, when the coin is has gone to zero, when the casino is closed, and it's something that's still there, and it has its own value as a piece of art or as a piece of something that's existed for, it is an intrinsic value. So something, the output of some work that was more than the sum of the token price of, you know
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, yeah, it's pretty much where my mind went too, to be honest with you. I like, I knew when I asked the question, my brain was like, absolutely not. But I still felt like it's a worthy question to pose. I think even for the rest of the audience who's like
Yeah.
listening. Um, because yeah, I think like now that we're sort of on the other end of it, the only thing that could particularly steer it would be more so social, like everyone is saying we don't want it. But but that's not what I don't believe that people don't want it though. I think people actually like this. And for me, I'm like thinking through it and saying, okay, I don't want this and I don't like it, but I also know that I got bills to pay and there are things I want to do that require me to tap into it in some way. And so I'm like, if I build something in that ecosystem and even if I build it differently, even if like my app is different and it doesn't have all the addictive shit or whatever, am I still enabling or contributing to that part negatively? Or am I trying to offer maybe a different experience that helps sort of neutralize the effect to some degree? That I don't even think I could actually even answer sufficiently. I think that would end up having to be up to the people that actually end up using it. I think that's a user question. Um, More so than me as an intentional person building it. But you're absolutely right, Nick. Like, yeah, this is the thing where, like, let's say you get hired by a company, and they're already at the end of the thing, and they're like, "Hey, I need you to like help design a thing, and it's like, well, dude, you've already fucked it. Like, I can't unfuck it. I just have to like, build
The-
maybe some lifeboats. Maybe
we
two people could jump off, bro. But like,
we're I
it's
think,
cooked.
but I think we shouldn't even be asking the question up to a point because we're too involved in a way. Like I want to go back to my comparison with playing cards. Like people go broke playing cards in casinos all over the world, in Vegas, in America, whatever it is, right? Um, I don't think the people who designed those cards are having or ever had these conversations. It's like was some guy in Alabama who drew the bicycle backgrounds. He has it like his life is a million years apart
Right.
from the casino floor, and I think we should have a similar kind of separation from the casino apps that are built using our designs. We just should focus on doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. For me, I'm asking these questions mainly because I have not really had anybody else to talk to about this in any capacity.
Yeah.
So this is good. We should do
Yeah.
more of these so that I could get these thoughts off. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the name of the game is really just saying we know the lay of the land. We know what our skills can do. We need to just commit to building those things and signaling that and seeing where that takes us, and not necessarily knowing or thinking or believing that it's going to end up like moving the needle, but just knowing that like, hey, we're building things that we know we want to see people use or that we want to see in the space. And I think sometimes that's all that matters. That small ripple will reach the edges of the river at some point. We may just not be around for it, but that's okay. I think it's just like at least building these artifacts are just as important as asking the questions or having the moral quandary on whether or not it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. If you have the thing, then at least like it can kind of inspire conversation and or action in some direction.
There's one thing I want to bring up before we close is that um, most people who are outside design, they don't like when they think about design, they think about the output. So pixels, right? So aesthetics and stuff. But obviously, there's a lot behind that. There was a whole design system, design thinking phase where everything was sticky notes, right? And obviously, it's important, but it's not just about sticky notes. But there were two projects. That did the sprints that needed a bit of like more of a involved flow charting and diagramming before it could because it didn't make sense even internally, right? And one of them is a very early stage is runner. We're actually working today this week, so they did the sprint and they were the very first clanker coin never to be clanked launched, right? So it's
Mhm.
exciting. And now they're working towards making a running app, so you can connect your Strava and then log your
Yep.
runs and or actually run. It's a cool thing, right? But I had to say, everybody, we gotta stop for a second because we need to put this on a fig jam because this is a real product. And
Right.
so what I did was the classic fig jam with the dot voting. So I put some sticky notes and say these are the product surfaces. So I give you everybody like 6 dots, must have and nice to have, and everybody voted. And in 24 hours, I did the open session on fig jam, right? In 24 hours, we had this, everybody chipped in, and that was so productive. And that was design, right? Collaborative design. And now everybody's aligned. This experiment, this like process, which is like above a certain level, is not even a question. Everybody, that you have to do it, otherwise you won't have alignment on the product. But below a certain level of product awareness, not everybody does it. Actually, almost nobody does it. But once you do experience it once, you see it at work, and you get a much greater appreciation for design writ large, not just in terms of pixels. And so maybe possibly it gives you a wider perception of what your product could be beyond the spin to win,
Right.
right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's
I
another thing that
mean,
we can do.
because, well, first, I mean, hey, good for you recognizing the need to say, hey, wait a minute, there's meat here. Let's actually really take some time and think through it. I think that's like primary step one is when there's meat on something, it's like, okay, you wanna not everything needs to be like flash fried. Like you may have to put it in a slow cooker, you know? Let all the stuff marinate, all the spices and everything, right? And so I think that was like because yeah, like you this kind of like goes all the way back to sort of like the very earlier stuff where it's like at least for me it was when I was talking about kind of like separating it from like the mini app to like the main thing.
Yeah,
But what you're doing is like identifying what's what's a gimmick versus like what actually has legs and could serve a particular community. And I think those are two fundamentally like they're two fundamental approaches on how you would approach a build as a mini app too. Um, because one is about sort of like it's very one dimensional and there's a loop if you decide to loop it or not, but we don't really care. It's very pass through. And then for the more intentional product, it's like, no, we want you to do things. We want you to stay. We want you to feel something. We want you to have an association to it. We want to create a stickiness that reminds you to use this thing because how we're presenting it to you is hopefully supposed to be something that like you look at as a extension of yourself. Whereas the spin to win stuff is there's no extension. It's just this is a conduit for me to get dopamine. Um, and I may or may not get a lot of it depending on how much money I win or lose.
yeah,
And so yeah, I think and I think this is for anybody who's trying to build something in this space in like in this ecosystem too. I think it's good to be honest about what you're wanting to build. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't say or pretend something is a product when it's really a slot machine. I think it's okay to be honest that it's a slot machine. I think you probably
you,
can't say that outright legally in the States because you may get sued, but I think nudging along the lines and saying this is a very fun game versus this is a service, a product, a tool, a thing, a device that is enabling, that's helping, that's aiding. That type of language should always be leveraged for things built with at least the idea of longevity in mind. You don't know if the product's gonna last that long,
sure.
but you're thinking about it from that perspective. Um, so yeah, I wanted to just kind of harp on that very early thing that you did because I think that that makes a hell of a difference because you can kind of catch the approach and going to what Nicholas was talking about, like having control over the product or at least like intention over the product. Like you have to catch it at that point,
Yeah,
otherwise it's sort of like you know you're having to clean up someone's mess. And I don't think designers are good fixers. Designers are great at doing things right the first time. We don't fix plumbing. That's what a
you
certain
can't really
that's what
unless you're
IT
also
is
developing.
for, right? Like
Yeah.
we're not plumbers.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, we're architects. We build the house. We do the
But
interiors.
by the way, this is probably a good point. I could probably work on that fig jam, and which is not groundbreaking, right? But I can re-release it as something like a free product, a template or whatever that other teams can use. Probably a good idea. I'll do that. Um, hey man, I just we went on 90 minutes. This is just pretty good.
Oh
Um,
my god, that's
yeah,
nuts.
yeah, but this was good. Thanks for coming on. I have one thing that came to my mind. I want to
Yeah.
close with is the and just as a super quick aside, the spin to win. kind, like leaderboard, spin to win, all this like category of patterns, right? Um, I can't imagine that they're doing so much, that they're having such an outsized input. Um, um, they're a factor in bringing people in and keeping users returning to the app. I have to imagine, I want to believe that if the product was just better, people will come back even without the spin to win. Because after a while, you get a spin to win here and there and there. I can't keep up. And it reminds me of a real actual casino. Have you ever actually been to a casino?
Yeah, I was just in Vegas for the Formula One race, a
Right,
couple weeks ago, and
right.
yeah, dude, that's literally you go downstairs, it's smoke filled, and it's just row after row after row of it.
And you're like small games, but within the larger casino, right? So you can jump
Yes.
around. And I was, I don't think I've ever said this, but I was a very, mid professional poker player for a while. I could never do online because I need to be there, and I like this as well, right? And so there's a particular feeling that I'm very familiar with, which I don't know if you ever tried, probably at least once, is when you get out of the casino at like 5 a.m.
Dude, yes.
Yeah.
And you
And
wake
it's
up, I mean, you look out and it's, like, bright, you're like, "What the
yes, and
fuck?"
you're coming from inside, which is also bright, but it's dark. It's a different. It's so jarring.
No clock,
No,
no
of
windows.
course. And
It's
obviously
like
you're boozed up. You had coffee and energy drinks and then
yeah,
whatever. Um, it's like a different world. And then you're back into the real world, and it's 5 a.m. and you got to do whatever you got to do. Your mom is calling, right? And this like transition is this the filter that I'm imagining between crypto and the real world.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you're building this
No, I
casino,
you
but then it's just a casino.
yeah, yeah, no, it's yeah, dude, no, you that is a very apt,
You know?
description where, like, all of these wallets and mini app experiences in general, everything is just the same game, but a different skin.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you were to what okay, you know what would also be really funny as, like, an art exhibit
Uh-huh.
is if you had a row of phones, like, sort of suspended in air,
Uh-huh.
and they all are all the different wallet apps and the mini apps and stuff, and it's just all spin to and you just call it casino, and it's just literally just every crypto app that does it. That would be a nuts instantly that would be
They
a
gotta
really
do
cool
it.
installation. I'm
Somebody's
gonna do
gonna
that
do it.
next year for Basel if I can figure it out. I would
Let's do
do
it.
that.
Do it. You'll get sponsors. You'll get takers from mini apps.
Oh my god, that would be insane, man.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I need this recording when it's done, bro, because
I
I
will.
have
I
to
will.
remember the shit that I said so I can keep myself honest.
I'm gonna get it in. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for coming. There wasn't many of us today, but a few people stayed on the chat. Thanks, Tirso, for coming up. I'll
Thank
get
you,
on the
guys.
recording. I'll see what comes out of it, and I'll see you on the timeline, I guess. All
Yeah,
right.
bro, sounds good. Thanks to everybody who listened, and hopefully for those who will watch later, we appreciate you guys as well. And Nick, you're absolutely right. Slot machine UX is awful. Maybe there's a career for us there too. We can fix the crypto casino, then we can fix real casinos. We'll be billionaires. Let's do it.
All right.